Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. My name is Caroline and I love talking about books. Today will be another reading vlog and I'm gonna be doing another part of the continuing series I'm in the middle of video. And I have 3 books I want to read today. The first book will be Among the Burning Flowers by Samantha Shannon, and that is the last book. I think it is a prequel, but it's the last book in the Root of Chaos series. And then I do want to finish the last book in the Neapolitan Quartet by Elena Ferrante. This is the story of the last child. And then finally I have a book on my books e-reader, and that's gonna be Lady of Ashes by Melissa K. Roehrich. I hope it's gonna be an enjoyable reading vlog for you guys. And so without further ado, let's head straight into the video. And please grab a snack, grab a drink, because you're gonna be here for a while. The first book we're going to be reading for this video will be Among the Burning Flowers by Samantha Shannon. This is the last book and final book in the Roots of Chaos series. I read the blurb on the dust jacket, and this apparently is a prequel to The Pride of the Orange Tree still, and this apparently could be read for somebody who has never read the series before, or somebody who has already finished the other 2 books and would love a deeper understanding of this world, which is me. If you are somebody who has been interested in starting this series by Samantha Shannon, but you're just intimidated by the other 2 books, understandably, because the other 2 books are massive, you can test out Among the Burning Flowers. It is very short, it's under 300 pages, and so far it's also very comprehensible. I started reading this book today and I got to page 43 already. It's been very accessible, very easy to read, not a lot of world building as the other 2 books. Because of that, this book is only focusing on the kingdom of Iskali, for now I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is the kingdom that's beneath the queendom of Venice, which is the queendom in the west, where they have beliefs that as long as this line of queens lives, then the Nameless One will not be resurrected or will not rise to power. But since this book so far has been focusing mostly on that kingdom, it's easier to read. And also throughout the book, hopefully you can see it, they have like images like this one to demonstrate like who the characters are. It's very obvious that the production of this book is like better than the other 2 books. And also that's like an image, an illustration, and it's just beautiful. And throughout the book there are also like other illustrations as well, and I'm just like super excited to look at them as I go through the book. Those are my initial impressions. I definitely think I can finish this book either tomorrow or on Friday. Today is Wednesday. I do want to get to page 150 today because I have a lot of time to read today. I'm also super excited for this book. I'll update you when I get to the halfway reading mark. Okay, update. I completely forgot to film the update when I reached the halfway mark because it's a Thursday and Thursdays for me are always super busy. But I got to page 212, so I have like that bit left. I think I have about 40-ish pages left of this book. So I want to say the 90, the 80, 85, 90% mark of Among the Burning Flowers. I do feel like if you are a beginner, and once again, if you want to get into the series and you look at the other 2 books and they're like gigantic and you're like intimidated, I think this is a great alternative. Although also, if you read the other 2 books already, picking up this book is also a great chance for you to just once again learn about these characters and fall in love with them even more. This book is about a very small side character that was slightly mentioned in book 1. So if you've read The Pride of the Orange Tree, you know that Queen Sabran's husband, Albrecht, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he is the prince of the kingdom of Mentendon, 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 and he married Queen Sabran. But before he married Queen Sabran, he had a little fling with somebody called Morosa. And Morosa is from the kingdom of Iskali. And you also know that the kingdom of Iskali is right beneath the kingdom of Anis. There was this period in time where they forsake the saints, which is their religion, across this chainmail of virtudom, and they surrendered to the wyverns and the nameless one. And that meant that the prince of Mentenden cannot marry this princess anymore because her country forsake their religion. So that's why Prince Albrecht proposed to Queen Sabran. I know that's a very complicated situation. If you've never read The Private Orange Tree, just know that this is about a princess whose country recently surrendered to the enemy. Her marriage to this prince cannot happen anymore. She's now also confined and isolated within her kingdom because her father now, worked with the enemy, and he doesn't want her to just wander around and spread lies and just, gather her own rebellions. So he kind of locked her in. And so she had to basically find a way to get herself out, to escape, but also to stay true to the saints, which are the original religion. And we also follow another person, I think Meliago, and she's also from the kingdom of Iskali, but she was exiled because she was an orphan and her parents died. Her parents were part of this rebellious movement against the government, and so they were exiled, and so she was thrown out into the streets, and so she had to fight her way to survive. We follow her as well as she transitioned from being on the streets to being on the sea. So now she joined, I want to say, a pirate crew, and she was just seafaring basically. So it's only three main characters that we're following, which is a lot smaller cast of characters compared to the other two books. And also, so far, I'm just really loving this. Once again, it's such an easy read, a very fun read, engaging still, but it's not engaging in the sense that it's keeping you on your toes. You know what I'm saying? It's not as complex and layered as the other two books, but it's not boring despite being very easy to read and accessible. I feel like because I've read the other two books, now reading this, I just have a deeper appreciation for Samantha Shannon and how she was able to plant Easter eggs throughout the entire series as a whole. And I also truly appreciate how she gives the prince and the princess and their unyielded betrothal a chance and another perspective for us to learn about them. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this book now. I think I can finish this book in 30 minutes. I have 40 pages left, and then after that we're gonna start the next book. I do have it though. Let me grab it. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been reading the Neapolitan Quartet by Elena Ferrante for a while, 6 months, and I'm on to the last book already. This is the last book in the quartet. This is the story of the lost child. It is significantly thicker than the other three books. I'm super excited. I'm once again intrigued to be back into Elena Ferrante's writing style. I'm also intrigued to see if this book is character driven, like the last book, the third book, and also the first book, or is it plot and very addicting, fast-paced read like the second book? Right now, the second book is still my favorite, so we're gonna see. I did enjoy the third book though. The third book was a very smooth, once again, very character driven. It was focusing mostly on Lena and not Lila. This is the next book I'm gonna read. I think I can read up to page 50 today. I do have work in a little bit, so I don't think we can read a lot tonight, but I'm thinking of reading to page 50, which is that many, and we'll go from there. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish Among the Burning Flowers now, and I'm gonna see you when I start the story of the last child. Okay guys, I do have an update in terms of the story of the lost child by Elena Ferrante. I got to page 147 pages. I am about that much in. I do want to get to page 250 tonight. That's the 50% mark of this book. This one is really engaging so far. I was thoroughly surprised. I'm so much invested in these people's business. It's like actually insane. This book follows Lena and Lila when they're like maturing. They're in their 30s now, and they physically look very different from each other because from the other three books, Lena is a writer, an author. She's on the rise. She's becoming known over the world. Her books are being published left and right in France and Italy and other places, and she's becoming very well known as an author, and that puts her in a position of power and authority over Layla, who divorced her husband, kind of had an affair with Nino, who Lena had a crush on. It was like a whole very messy situation. It's like they completely changed spots. Like it's like a 180 difference. Lena now became, I don't want to say in the exact same spot as Lila was a couple of years ago, but it was exactly like that. I'm like frustrated reading about this woman just like trying to go back to a man who clearly did not value her and did not respect her, because Nino, I don't know, he's like an insufferable character, but at the same time, we cannot just fully blame him. We also have to hold the woman accountable for coming back again and again to that piece of shit. So I'm kind of frustrated with Lena and Lila now, after she realized that she's very smart and she had a knack for like IT and technology. She apparently like got involved in this like computing company, and then she also started her own company, and now she's like a boss and she's making a lot of money. She's like profiting. Her company is like one of the pioneers in the field, and so she's like getting rich, and so they kind of switch position a little bit. That doesn't mean that Lena became poorer. It's just that emotionally they switch spots, but still their friendship is very messy, but somehow like they can never get rid of each other. They're like entangled. Maybe at the beginning, all of their fingers are entangled. They're like hand in hand, they're like close, tight knit, very, very bestie with each other. But now maybe after everything, they grew apart, and now maybe their like pinkies are intertwined. But they're still intertwined. But the level of intimacy is not the same thing. I'm like very much intrigued. This book, if it keeps up with whatever it is that this book is doing, I think this could be my favorite book out of the 4 books that I've read by Ferrante. The only way that I could describe it is that you're reading somebody's dirty diary. It's not dirty in the sense that, oh, you're committing a crime, or it's like dehumanizing in a way. I don't agree with the behaviors and the choices that Lena made, especially Lila. I feel like I resonated more with Lila, although even if I were to be Lila, I wouldn't have made the decision that she made, but I digress. Despite not agreeing and feeling very frustrated, somehow I feel like I needed to keep reading. It's such an interesting thing. Like it's like Elena Ferrante literally injected drugs into this book, because why am I just like addicted? It's like written in a way that's like very different, slightly different. It's not like completely 180 different. It's the same author. I could tell that this is her writing, but it's gotten to the point where I'm like very much invested. Maybe this is intentional. Maybe the other 3 books were like very slow, very character driven, that now building up to the last book, she's like going full out. She's like making up twists and like, I don't know. It's just like a very interesting read so far, and very, very easy. A lot easier than the other 3 books. Maybe because I'm just very much invested, but I'm like excited to see what this is going. But I think this book also is touching a lot more on the themes of motherhood, but also how, because Lena is now having an affair, not technically an affair now, he's in a relationship with Nino, her daughters are also affected in some way. It's like touching upon, it's like hinting at that a little bit. I have a feeling that I know where this is going. I don't want to say that this is gonna be like a full circle moment, but I fear that a full circle moment is happening with the daughters. I'm having a lot of thoughts about motherhood when you are not ready. It's not like you don't plan it. I think she did, but it's like she didn't know that she was not ready to become a mother. And so now that she had 2 daughters, she realized that she didn't want to fully dedicate herself to being a mother, which there's nothing wrong with being a mother and pursuing your career. At least you're gonna put your daughter on the same level of importance and priority as your career. That's at least that's what I thought. But seeing how Lena negotiate those 2 aspects in a way that maybe I don't necessarily agree with makes me think a lot about becoming a mother and the responsibilities and maybe the burdens that come with being a mother, especially a mother in a household that's like messy as this situation that's going on with divorce, and then it's a whole mess. It's like a double life situation. And so on one hand, I feel for her. I understand that she's like stressed, rightfully so, because I also would be stressed if I'm in the same situation. But on the other hand, I don't agree with her and I'm frustrated. I'm gonna keep reading and then I'm gonna update you when I get maybe to the 50% mark or maybe slightly more. It's going very well. Okay, I got to the 50% mark of The Story of the Lost Child by Elena Ferrante. And okay, kind of changed my mind a little bit, not too much though. I still think this book is already better than the other 3 that I read. Although after the point that I last talked to you, maybe it's just me that I've been too tired, but it then got to the point where I was a bit slightly zoned out. So I was not feeling this book as much as I was feeling this book at the beginning. I'm on page 260 now. Okay, but something did happen. Something did happen that I'm finally like, yes, finally we made the damn decision. She's like stepping into her power and she's cutting ties and she's doing everything that she needs. I feel like I'm at the point where Ferrante is building tension, so not a lot of things are going on right now. After that crazy, unexpected plot twist, I'm like, okay, now it's just gonna go very smooth until hopefully towards the end it's gonna be another plot twist. For now, I'm still hanging tight, I'm still hanging on, I'm still waiting out on what the finale is gonna look like. I have very high expectation because once again, this is the last book in the series, so it has to somehow tie everything together. It alluded to this in the 3rd book already, where it's gonna be like a full circle moment, but I'm interested because they are now in their late 30s. I'm hoping that maybe towards the end it's gonna tell their story when they become a little bit more middle age, like 50, 60. I'm not even sure if that's gonna happen, but I would love to once again have the full story pieced together from childhood to middle age and then elderhood. I don't know if that's even a word, but that's my expectation right now. They're so complicated. Okay, Elena Ferrante, this entire series has a way of writing, and I know this is like a work of fiction, right? But she writes in a way that's so compelling and so real and so persuasive that I sometimes had to check if this is fictional because it feels like real life. It feels like I am living this life and this story with them. That's how much emotions and just rawness that Ferrante was able to pack into these novels to make them feel not fictional. Even though they're fictional, I hope they're fiction. I mean, I double checked, I triple checked. They are fictions. It's like a story within a story. Because Lena is a author. She's a writer. She's producing books. She's writing essays. She's one of the 2 main protagonists. And she is a character that's written by Ferrante, who is also a writer. So at some point, I'm like, I can't help but think if she's actually writing about herself, or is she like creating another fictional character? Because if she was creating another character, then her level of imagination, her level of details, the ability to create such a realistic fictional world is insane. But if she's like writing about her own life and retelling her own story and her life through Lena Greco, then that makes sense. But still, even so, she's able to articulate her thoughts and her emotions very well, her decisions even very, very well, very compelling. I'm still intrigued. I'm still hooked. and we're gonna hang tight, and then we're gonna see how this book is gonna end. I'm gonna check back with you when I have an update, if not when I finish the book. Okay. I have a reading update for Lady of Ashes. I started this book 2 days ago and I am a quarter into the book. So I have the digital version of this book. So I don't know how many pages in the physical copy. But for my digital version, this book has a total of 1,272 pages and I'm on page 515 now. So like almost halfway through, actually not a quarter, almost halfway through. And okay, this might be a controversial take, or I don't know, let me know if it's a controversial or not. Soren is so whiny. I'm sorry, I apologize, but okay, so I'm not gonna spoil anything, but basically at the end of book 2, which is Lady of Shadows, yes, Scarlet went through this whole traumatic event, which she brought it upon herself. So there's nobody else she could blame but herself. Okay, I know I'm a bit critical, but I see things for what they are. At the end of the book 2, Scarlet was about to kind of stepped into this danger zone that she knew even before stepping into that danger zone that's going to be dangerous, right? And then at the beginning of book 3, which is Lady of Ashes, we follow how that traumatic event unfolds and how that affects her, and it's for real traumatic. And so I don't blame Scarlet to be whiny and to be like frustrated and to feel so many heightened emotions because A, she got her magic blocked off, so she's like already on edge because of that. And then she was tortured, right? And then she was captured and everything. So I'm not gonna spoil, that's all you should know. But basically it's very traumatic. And I understand that Soren is, you know, her twin flame. He's very protective over her, as he should, right? I think book 1 and then some of book 2, that protective edge of his was very attractive, was very like cute. You know, I could tolerate it. You know, I enjoyed it. But then tell me why, after Scarlet went through this traumatic event, he became extremely whiny. And he's gotten to the point that he's just a bit insufferable in the sense that he couldn't bring himself to listen to other people's opinions and insights and inputs into this whole situation when what they're trying to do is just help. You know, he's so, I don't want to say stubborn, but he's kind of egotistical. He asked for their help, right? Because he alone could not undertake this entire quest. But then when they tried to input what they thought might be helpful in trying to save and help Scarlet and also Soren as well for his sake, he just became obsessively defensive, and I don't know why. And I know he's hurt. He's like going through some stuff as well because of Scarlet, right? They're literally tethered to each other. They're literally tied to each other, basically. So if Scarlet is affected, Soren will be affected as well. And I understand that. But once again, he didn't physically go through all the things that Scarlet went through. So there's no excuse over here of behaving like a child. So I did enjoy that. I did not enjoy that for one bit. And also, side note, I don't know why, and one of the other side but kind of mainish character, Tolwyn, hopefully I'm pronouncing her name correctly, she's the other Fae queen. You know, in this realm of the Fae, there are two queens. You know, Scarlet is one of them and then Tolwyn is the other, right? She rules the court of wind and the court of earth, I think. Tell me why. She's been queen for I don't know how long, several decades, several centuries, whatever, you know, for a long time, long time, right? She's supposed to know all this stuff. Why was she also so out the loop? I don't know how to say it. It's like she was so naive in the worst way possible. And also the way that she acted, not how a queen should act. In the sense that, so when she found out that Scarlet is about to embark into this very dangerous and apparently near-death experience and event, right? She went to her neighbor, which is like the shifters. So in this world, there are the Fae, but also there are the vampires, and there are also the shifter, which are like werewolves, or they can shift to whatever animals or living objects or living human bodies, beings that they could. So the shifters. And the shifters have been one of the Fae's biggest allies for the past centuries. You know, they helped fight with the Fae. They fought alongside the Fae. So she went there, and the king of the shifters called Alpha. So that's why I thought it's more of a werewolf thing. So the Alpha, and she was talking to him, and she was like trying to ask him for some like secret information about something that she's like doing research on, right? When he got back to her, when he just like asked her back about why and then what's the need, and trying to like ask her to reveal more information from her side, which understandable, you know? He's also a ruler, so he's supposed to care for his people, and so he has to know why Talwyn is kind of like finding herself in muddy waters again. And she couldn't answer that. She's like, I don't know. And she was like, she didn't expect him, the Alpha, to get back to her, to get back at her like that. And I'm like, what did you expect? Did you expect everybody to like bow to you and obey you at every single command? That's not how life works, girl. It's just like you have to convince people that you are worthy of their so-called obedience. You know, that's just not what I envisioned her to be. She kept complaining about being lonely and isolated, when in fact all she did was just trying to push people away, like not revealing any ounce of information to them and expect them to obey her every command. And I don't think that's how a just ruler is supposed to rule. Side tangent. So I'm having so much fun. As you can tell. Hopefully it's gonna get better. I don't want to say it's not going anywhere. It is going somewhere. I haven't seen how this is gonna do any justice to this world and this entire situation. So I'm gonna keep reading. I'm hoping to maybe finish this book today because I have a lot of time today. I'm not doing anything besides just reading. Okay, I'll see you, talk to you. Hopefully things get better. And also, if you have read this entire series and finished it, or at least book 4, which is the next book after Lady of Ashes, let me know if it gets better, and let me know if I should read it. Because if it continues like the way that this book is, like, I don't think I'm gonna be continuing the series, because maybe I will, just for the sake of curiosity, but for the characters, maybe not. Maybe not. And hopefully, I'm praying, fingers crossing, that Scarlet is also not gonna be a total whiny brat. We never know. I didn't expect to see Soren and Talwyn being so whiny, but here they are. So hopefully not Scarlet, please. What? I'm stressing. What's going on? I have less than 100 pages. Not even it. I mean, I knew this was coming. You know, it's a fantasy. It's bound to come. But what do you mean? Okay, I finished reading Lady of Ashes last night. It was an interesting ending, and I think that book did exactly what I thought it's gonna do. I gave that book a 3.5 stars, and okay, the beginning half of the book, like I mentioned, I didn't like the characters, especially Soren and Talwyn, but the later half of the book did pick up, and I did actually really enjoy reading the later half of this book. I think the author did a great job at expanding the scope and then kind of increasing the stakes, and also somehow at the end of the book, it still lives as like such a big cliffhanger that I feel like I need to read the next book right now, but I'm not gonna do that just yet. I'm gonna just, you know, sit with the book for a second. But in terms of the romantic aspect between Soren and Scarlet, I don't think the author did a great job at kind of deepening the relationship and also giving them as much context as I was hoping for, because at the end of book 3, Scarlet and Soren haven't resolved the conflict that arose from the events in book 2. So essentially they spent the entire book 3 just like fighting and misunderstanding each other and not trying as much. Like one time Soren is like trying and then Scarlet was kind of aloof, and then the other time Scarlet was trying but then Soren was like a bit more closed off. So I didn't see them to be connecting a lot, and so I'm like kind of doubting their connection a little bit, although there are twin flames and everything. They have like, they're mated, you know, but I was hoping that maybe there was some more context and some more understanding and conversations that are meaningful to building the relationship, but it didn't happen, so I was a bit disappointed. Also, I started writing down my notes for the books on my journal, and that has been something that I recently got to doing, and I really enjoy it. Especially, I also recently finished The Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. Actually, I have it here. So The Three Musketeers, this is not filmed for a reading vlog, but what I found was reading and jotting down my notes about reading that book down here and just like doing my thought analysis really helpful. Although Lady of Ashes, I don't want to say it's not as nuanced and complicated, but there isn't a lot of like implication in terms of politics and things that require me to sit with information and think them through. So I was just like mostly jotting down my feelings. And for example, I said, why are Soren and Tywin so whiny? Soren is childish and stubborn. He refused to hear other people's input, so why ask for their help then? Tywin doesn't act like a true queen, even though she has ruled for several decades, or centuries, question mark. Not politically smart at all. I'm disappointed slightly. I thought she was cool and mysterious before. Side note, I do appreciate how messy Scarlett's and Soren's relationship is though. But then they just stopped at being messy. You know, there's no relationship development whatsoever. So I was, And then there's like this couple of quotes that I wrote down. Quote, thank you for loving me like the stars love the night, Soren. His forehead fell forward, resting against hers. All the way through the darkness, love, end quote. And then there are some notes that I, kind of like some of my conspiracies that I wrote down. In terms of like Tywin and Azriel, I have some conspiracy about them and their relationship. And I said, are they okay? Question mark. And then also Callan and Tava. Isn't that too quick? You know, if you read book 3, you know what I'm talking about. So I don't know, like she's trying to do a lot, but then the actual main couple, she didn't spend as much time on as I was hoping for. Instead, she just jumped around a little bit too many POVs in my personal opinion. Like some people, we don't need to learn from their POVs. I'm not saying that Callan is not a significant side character, but I was like truly invested in Scarlett and Soren's kind of relationship and business just because they just went through a traumatic event, and I was like hoping to see how they would resolve it, but they couldn't. They were too stubborn, or just the author didn't give them enough time to do so. And then she just like spent time on other people's business, like other potential couples. So I don't have to put that. So that's like a 3.5 Lady of Ashes by Melissa K. Roehrich. That being said, I am invested, but please like let it be a good resolution between Scarlett and Soren, because if I read book 4 and suddenly they're like lovey-dovey again and they act like nothing happened, or actually like nothing's happening, that's like a big red flag. You know, you just like gloss over the actual conversation. Even though up until this point, even though I'm frustrated with how they're just like bouncing around the clock without actually hitting the target, I'm willing to give them a second chance just because of how I can see the potential in this messiness relationship. But because it's messy, it's like very raw. You know, it could be something that can truly resonate with lots of people. So I'm willing to give it a second chance. But please, Melissa K. Roehrich, please in book 4, don't just gloss over what happened in book 2, and let them have a meaningful, understanding, respectful, compassionate conversation between the two of them, and then make them come to an agreement that makes sense, and then make them, for the sake of God, follow through with their boundaries, because they're just so messy. They're just like jumping around all the time. Those are all the 3 books that I wanted to read for this reading vlog. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I really enjoyed making this video. All of the books I think are good books. I had a great time, especially with Among the Burning Flowers. That series as a whole has my entire heart. You should read it if you haven't. And then The Story of the Last Child, once again, it's like reading a dirty diary of somebody else's whose business I don't have any problem with, but I just cannot keep digging into their business even more. And then finally, Lady of Ashes, I liked it. Could have been better, but I digress. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching all the way through. I hope that was enjoyable and that was helpful for you guys. If you are also in the middle of a couple of series, let me know down below what series you're in the middle of and whether or not you're going to be continuing with the series or you're going to be DNFing them. Personally, I have a lot of series because I started a lot of series last year, so I'm gonna be making one of these videos again very soon. So with that being said, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go actually edit the video that you're watching right now, and then I'm gonna see you very soon with an episode. And until then, bye bye.